because our next guest hails from the great state of Texas, and he is a terrific senator, a brilliant, brilliant attorney. Ted Cruz may one day be on the Supreme Court himself. I'm telling you, he's that smart and he's that deserving. He's got a new book out, does Ted Cruz, and I'm joined, by the way, by my colleague Lydia Serrani. She is a special investigative reporter for this interview. Ted Cruz's new book is called One Vote Away, How a Single Supreme Court Seat Can Change History. Let's bring him in. Good morning, Senator Cruz.
Good morning, Bernie. Good morning, Lydia. And I got to say, playing deep in the heart of Texas, you know how to make this Texan feel welcome in the Big Apple.
Ain't that something?
I love that accent. I love the Southern accent. I was in South Carolina for a few years. I miss it.
No, listen, and we love you as well, Senator Cruz. As I mentioned before, you're brilliant. Now, this book that you wrote, One Vote Away, obviously, you didn't know what was going to happen with Ruth Bader Ginsburg just 2 months ago. So it was very, I hate to use the word fortuitous, the book writing and the events that transpired, but you did. And now tonight we're going to have a Supreme Court justice confirmed by the Senate. And who would have expected that?
Well, it's I think a major, major victory for the American people. And the book, as you noted, I wrote the book this spring and summer, and it was during COVID lockdown while I was at home in Houston, sitting in my living room, and pulled out my laptop and wrote the book. And obviously I didn't know that we would have a Supreme Court vacancy in October, but what I did know is that we had a presidential election in November. And I think in 2016, the single most important reason that millions of Americans, including me, voted for Donald Trump instead of Hillary was Supreme Court justices. And I think this time around, Supreme Court justices remain critical to millions of Americans who want to preserve our fundamental liberties, who want to preserve our free speech, our religious liberty, our Second Amendment. And I think in nominating Judge Amy Coney Barrett, President Trump made perhaps the single most important decision of his presidency. And when we confirm Judge Barrett as Justice Barrett this evening at about 7:30 p.m., that will be a major, major victory for the American people.
Yes.
And early voting, that's another big topic that's going across the entire country here in New York as well as in Texas. They're estimating already about 60 million ballots cast so far. It's pretty incredible. What are you seeing in Texas, and what do you think that means for the Republican Party, for Donald Trump?
Well, we are seeing enormous voting turnout in Texas. We've already exceeded 2016 voting at this point, and I can tell you, Heidi and I, we both voted last week in early voting. Stood in line about 15, 20 minutes. It wasn't too bad, a little bit of drizzle in the air, so you just had to stand with the umbrella, but other than that, it was fine. Look, I think it means people are energized and excited about this election. That is both good and bad. On the bad side, the hard left, those who hate Donald Trump, are highly motivated. They will crawl over broken glass to vote. I think we're going to see a massive turnout on the left. The uncertain question, and what I hope will be answered, is does everyone else show up? Does everyone else who just believes in common sense positions, low taxes, low regulations, securing the border, standing with our law enforcement, our cops and our firefighters, and defending the Constitution? If the rest of us show up, we'll have a very, very good election, but it depends on turnout between now and 8 days from now, Election Day.
Ted Cruz is our guest on the Bernie and Sid Show with Lydia Serrani. His book is One Vote Away, How a Single Supreme Court Can Change History. And a single Supreme Court seat, I should say, can change history. Ted Cruz, the threat back to Amy Coney Barrett, the threat by the Democrats to pack the Supreme Court, I mean, that's fraught with so many different perils. Tell us about that.
Well, I think it is real. I think the Democrats mean it. If they win, if we wake up in January and see a government of Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, I think that one of the first things they will do is move to pack the court, to increase the number of justices from 9 up to 11 or 13, and the objective would be to put a bunch of partisan judicial activists on the court. And, you know,
and with some of these guys, they're very unreliable. Justice Roberts has been in the past. I mean, who knows? That's why this was so important with this election. You had an 8-8 vote just recently on, I believe it was the Pennsylvania decision to extend mail-in voter to 3 days. They can count up to 3 days, and the Supreme Court deadlocked on it. And that's why it's so important with this election coming up that we have 9 justices on the Supreme Court.
Well, that's exactly right. One of the chapters in the book talks about Bush versus Gore. The last time we had a contested presidential election in the year 2000, I was part of the legal team representing George W. Bush. I was working at the time on the Bush presidential campaign, was down in Austin, Texas. I actually met my wife, Heidi, on the campaign. We were in cubicles about 20, 30 feet apart from each other. And, you look at what happened there, it was surreal. If you remember in 2000, on election night, George W. Bush won. But the margin in Florida was very close. And so Al Gore sent in an army of lawyers to Florida to challenge the election results. I got on a plane. I flew to Tallahassee. I was down on the ground the entire 36 days of that recount. It was chaos. As I recount in the book, in the war room, we had a whiteboard on the wall with charts of 7 different cases, all of which were pending, any one of which could cost the presidency of the United States. And the case went twice to the U.S. Supreme Court. The first time, we won unanimously, 9-0. The Supreme Court concluded that the Florida Supreme Court, a partisan Democratic court, had gotten it wrong. The second time it went to the court, the decision on the remedy, the final outcome, was 5-4, and the court ruled that the ballots had been counted. At that point, they'd been counted 4 separate times. Every time the ballots had been counted, George W. Bush had won, and the court ruled enough is enough under federal law, under the Constitution, the election is over. And that took 36 days. If we had had a 4-4 court that had deadlocked, we could have seen uncertainty and chaos. Neither the country nor the world knew who the next president of the United States was. And unfortunately, there's a real risk in this in this election year of the same thing happening, and maybe not just in one state. It might not just be Florida. It could be in 2, 3, 4, 5 states all at once. So it is a very good thing with the confirmation of Justice Barrett that we have a 9-justice Supreme Court that can resolve any election dispute according to the law and according to the Constitution.
Speaking of chaos and confusion, we have to talk about the fake news media. I was a member of the media for 20 years. Now I'm an opinion host, but you can't, I'm sorry. It's just undeniable the way the Republicans, the conservatives, that we are being censored. You have been very vocal about this. I'm reading one of your quotes. You said, "We are seeing Silicon Valley billionaires drunk with power." You were even banned by Twitter. How do we fight these major tech corporations that clearly only want their agenda to be out there?
It is incredibly dangerous. I think it is the single greatest threat we have to free speech and free elections in America. You've got the media, which has always been biased, but in the era of Trump, I think Donald Trump broke the media. They just can't handle it. They're literally foaming at the mouth on television each night. And then big tech is even worse. And we saw just over a week ago the incredible power of big tech when the New York Post broke 2 blockbuster stories
and they're still
about
blocked. They're still blocked, Senator.
You're exactly right, laying out evidence of corruption of Joe Biden, one concerning Ukraine, the others concerning communist China, and Twitter and Facebook blocked it. You couldn't share a link. If you tried to put a link up, it said this information is potentially harmful. Well, maybe to Joe Biden's political prospects, and not only that, for the first time, big tech blocked a major media outlet. The New York Post is prevented from sharing on its own social media its own stories. The New York Post has the 5th highest circulation of any newspaper in America. It's over 200 years old. It was founded by Alexander Hamilton. And now a handful of big tech billionaires are asserting the power to censor any media outlet in America to decide what is news, what isn't news, and what the American people are allowed to read. I can tell you this week on Wednesday, day after tomorrow, I'm going to have the CEOs of Google, Facebook, and Twitter all testifying before the Senate Commerce Committee. I'm looking forward to questioning all three of them. And then in November, we're going to have the CEOs of Facebook and Twitter again before the Senate Judiciary Committee on exactly this topic, censoring the media and trying to influence the election. It is a grotesque abuse of power, and it needs to stop.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a free press anymore. This is unbelievable. But thank you so much, Senator, for your efforts. Thank you.
Grotesque is one way to put it, and you're absolutely right. Senator Ted Cruz, the book is One Vote Away, How a Single Supreme Court Seat Can Change History. Senator Cruz, I have to tell you this. You came close to actually beating Trump in the primary. And you, Senator Ted Cruz, had you won the presidency, you would have been the target of this deranged hatred as well. You very well would have been. So with that said, what can the president – do you think the president can overcome this bias and this hatred a week from tomorrow?
You know, I do think he can. I very much hope and pray that he does. I think the debate with Joe Biden was a major turning point. I think the president did an extraordinary job in the debate. Unlike the first debate, I thought was a mess. The first debate, they yelled at each other too much and were insulting each other. Yep. This second debate, they actually got into substance. And what the president did best, and I think this is the key to the whole election, is President Trump laid out that his agenda is reopen the economy, let small businesses reopen, let restaurants reopen, let people go back to work, let people provide for their kids, let kids go back to school. I think that's what Americans want. We want to do it safe, but we don't want to destroy our economy. And the president laid out very effectively, and Joe Biden basically admitted his agenda is shut it all down, shut the small businesses down, shut the schools down, destroy the churches, destroy people, and hide in the basement. That is a radical agenda, and I think the American people want small businesses to survive. I think if it is a choice on substance for a vision for America, that is an election we can and we should win.
Senator Ted Cruz, you are brilliant. Beto O'Rourke is a pimple on your backside. You are incredible. Senator Ted Cruz, all the best, Godspeed, and thank you for appearing on the Bernie and Sid Show with Lydia Serrano.
Thank you so much,
Bernie and Lydia, thank you for having me.